wanted to just take a moment in our worship to recognize the significance of this very date. This very date, October 16th, 17 years ago, was the first worship service in this building. Yeah, if you come in, you see the stone by the door. It has this date, and wow, that was a fantastic time because, spending 4 years doing theater worship, it's hard. This is hard too, but this started a whole new era in the ministry of this church. That was 17 years ago, and here we are. And God has blessed us in so many marvelous ways. Well, as many of you know, that on September 18th, this congregation, at a congregational meeting, you authorized a building committee to oversee the development of a building to accommodate the space needs of the education and fellowship mission of the church. So we're here now 17 years later, we're saying, okay, what is the next thing that God has for this church? And when I was able to see what a handful of people were able to do at a theater, and we're like 4 or 5 times that now, what is God going to do now? And so that building committee was set up to look at the authorization to perhaps first look at the space needs. And so they've met with the discipleship team, making sure we have a pretty good idea of what we need for our education ministries. They're facilitating with the fellowship team to find out what kinds of space needs we have to deal with that, because we realize that we're deficient in those areas, and it's time now to look at what is next for God. And so they're looking at those plans. The team was also authorized to look at the possibility of the inclusion of a preschool to be a part of this building. We had no idea when we met as a congregation of what the possibilities may be, but there is a very good chance there's an opportunity now for a faith-based part of our tradition in another congregational church who wants to expand their preschool and perhaps have a satellite here. So there is a good possibility as we do the due diligence that immediately we will have a way of also ministering to families, young families with kids, right in this facility. But we're doing the due diligence of that. It'll come back to the congregation with the details. But we're also authorized to initiate a capital campaign for this. So this is really what I really wanted to get to talk about this morning. I've got good news, marvelous news. I got bad news. But I also have blessed news, okay? All right? The good news. You want to hear the good news, don't you? Here is the good news. The good news is we have all of the funding to realize our church mission for the expansion project. Isn't that good news? Great news. That's great news. Here's the bad news. It's still in our pockets. Good news, bad news. I'm sorry. Bad news, right. But we can do something about that, can't we? And that takes me to what I would call the blessed news. As we advance forward, the blessed news is that we have an opportunity to be blessed by being a part of God's next thing, of God's next great endeavor in this church. That is blessed news. And so, when you think of the challenges that we have in life, whether we go through as individuals or as family or as a country or as a nation, we're confronted with a reality. And we can either be victims of circumstance. Well, it's just the way it is. Can't do anything else. We're stuck. We can either be the victims of circumstance, or in the blessed news, we can also be creators of circumstance. We can create those better things that we know that honors God and builds community and builds character. And so I wanted to give you a heads up, okay, as part of the good news and the blessed news. Forget the bad news. We can do something about that. On October 30th, we're wanting to begin the Faith Under Construction Capital Campaign. And let's go back here. And so we'll be talking about that. There will be an opportunity for us to say, okay, 17 years has passed. We're now going to be a part of what God's new thing is. We are all, kind of like Michael was in Canada, we are still church planters. Just because we have this place doesn't mean we're done. We continue to plant, and God blesses the seed and allows it to grow. And I'm just so excited and looking forward to the future. And I just want to ask you, as you ponder and you look at your situation, obviously we can't all give the same, heavens no, but we can all sacrifice the same. I think we can all do that and feel good about that. It's not the amount, it's what we feel, how we have been blessed and being stewards of something that's going to outlast our lives. This is what I want to live for the legacy of God's church and God's message and what Christ has done to continue to live on as we change our citizenship to those things of heaven.